right. Sweet. So thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and then I don't have to introduce myself, which is awesome. So my name's Mike, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit. The lights are really bright. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about technology and how it's kind of changing the landscape on how we connect and share resources and ideas and energy around our physical environments and the opportunity that presents. So when Amanda asked me to speak, or the Colosimo asked me to speak, I kind of immediately did what any startup person does, that I live on my computer and in PowerPoint. I started hacking into a PowerPoint slide and just chopping things up and pasting them in. And at some point I stopped myself and I was like, I don't even know what I need to say. I don't even know what I'm talking about, and I'm in this like PowerPoint death spiral that happens. So I killed that idea. And I only left the most important slide. And the most important slide is going to get there when I push it the right direction. Is just a thank you to like everybody that makes this possible. To Amanda and her team, Danielle, Stacy, Tony, I think is back there. Thank you. This is awesome stuff that's happening here, and we're psyched to be part of it, and just kind of honored to be invited to come here, and so excited to share it. So I won't leave it up because it's a little awkward, I think, if everybody's there talking. So thank you. So my career is kind of crazy, and it talked a little bit about it with my introduction. But if you look at my life as like an infographic, it's sort of chaotic. I mean, by the time I was 18, I lived in eight different cities, 5 different states, kind of all over the place. And in this weird, like, narcissistic way, I sort of enjoyed the challenge, I think, of like having to adapt and be in new places. So I ended up going to the Air Force Academy for my undergrad. I played lacrosse, studied mechanical engineering. I was sort of like, did it for whatever reason. People ask me all the time, did you enjoy that? And I don't know if enjoyment is the way that I would describe it, but the value and the experience that I got out of it, I wouldn't replace for anything. So when I went to the academy, I thought I wanted to fly. I was like the 12-year-old that knew every single word to Top Gun. Like, we would go on road trips with my little brothers, and like I would bleep out the curse words, and that's why my parents would let us watch it, because they didn't want my little brothers to hear the swear words. So I wanted to be a pilot. By the time I graduated, I didn't want to do it anymore, for a lot of different reasons. So the Air Force did what they did to a lot of people, and they sent me to this little sandy place called Manhattan Beach. And I was in Manhattan Beach for like 3 years, working in the Air Force, and I ended up at UCLA with grad school and consulting along the way. And while I was at UCLA, I was sort of looking for the next thing that I wanted to do. And you know, I knew that it wasn't a couple things based on my past experiences. And I got really into urban planning, and I started studying with like my friends that are architects, my friends that are planners, and ended up taking just as many classes at these schools that I did at business school. And I felt okay about it because I was paying $100,000 to go there for business school, so I felt like I could go without having to pay for any more classes, and like justified from the institution. So I graduated and I went to work for this design firm out of London. I was working in a small office in LA and traveling all around the world, working in communities and plans, building airports and master plans and all kinds of different things. And one of the things that I realized real quickly is that the reason that I fell in love with urban planning was that it was such a bottoms-up process. It was so informed and so responsive to what citizens and communities needed, and it's why GDP is such an amazing experiment and thing that's happening here. But traditionally, in the way that planning was happening around the world, it wasn't really like that. And it was more top-down, and I was just kind of frustrated with that process. And everywhere that I went, I saw these communities with all this energy, all these people that wanted to contribute to the places that they lived, the people that like wanted to find other people to connect with based on their shared interests and their mutual sort of purpose to create and improve their lives. So one day I was flying back from Saudi Arabia, and like when you go from one side to the other side, you kind of like go over the top. And so I was flying over Greenland and sitting in this airplane, staring out the window, and it was just like perfect white snow with like crystal blue water, and I was like, man, that's just like so necessary. it's like, so what needed to be there? And I, had just gotten back from working on this like monstrosity of a project that nobody was going to use for 5 years because somebody said they should build it. And so I started to like sweat and get those like goosebumps, that you do when you start to like feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack for a second, and I'm on an airplane at 40,000 feet in the middle of nowhere, which has been a bad place to have a panic attack because it would have been a long ride back to LA. So I did what everybody does. I turned on some mindless Tommy Boy, Chris Farley movie and like zoned out and fell asleep, and I got back to LA. So I went and talked to my the guy that runs our office, and I was like, man, I don't know why we're doing this. Like I just sort of vented to him. I was like, I had this moment and I couldn't do it anymore. And he was like, dude, I appreciate that and I know what you mean, but like this is the business, this is what we do. We have to go and we have to do projects where people are paying us to build things. And that just didn't sit very well for me. And I think I'm sort of in the community of people here that like, that's what we do because that's what happens or that's why we do it, doesn't sit very well for a lot of you people. And that's why this is an exciting place to be. So shortly thereafter I left and went and parted ways. And I got together with all my urban planning buddies and we started just hacking up whiteboards, and we were like, this is crazy, we can solve this problem, this is unnecessary, we got to figure out how to organize all these communities. And this is where we started talking about how do we break down the barriers and what the next 10, 15 years is going to look like and why it's super, super exciting for this kind of collaboration and this kind of work. And I have some friends up in Northern California that I'm sure some people have mutual friends with, and they run a little university called Singularity. And how many of you guys know what Singularity is? Awesome. So for those of you that don't, it's this concept that technology is moving so fast and evolving so fast and data is just being generated and growing so quickly that at some point everything converges into this like thing, right? That like is scary and crazy and it's exciting all at the same time and nobody really knows what it's going to look like. The point is that there's so much information out there, and Nancy talked about it last night in her like the big shift, that like it's really hard to not be transparent anymore. There's so much information about what people are doing and what businesses are doing and good and bad that it's really difficult to hide anything. So why not embrace that, and why not create stories and connections and movements around like all these little things that are happening that we can't hide anymore. So that's what we do at Third Place, and we do it really by helping businesses and help connect all these little things that are happening. When we were first designing it, we were looking at examples of things to be inspired by, and the Arab Spring had just happened, and the Arab Spring was this like insanely just amazing thing that was made possible because all these people that existed in their own little communities with the same kind of problem and same kind of idea were all of a sudden connected and could share stories, and they could put faces to names and to value. And it went from millions of disconnected people to millions of connected people in this massive uprising that was like insane and never seen before. So those kind of mechanics are what we aspire to try to like leverage and put into place with businesses and with like movements that happen all over the place in lots of different ways and lots of different communities. But the cool thing about like what we do is that and the opportunity for all of us to be involved in like Mike's work with Reallocate is very similar in the sense that like there's all this stuff that's out there and there's all these cool ways for us to connect, and like everybody wants the same thing. Whether you're a business, whether you're a government, whether you're an individual, you want relevance for things that you're doing, you want to see impact with the work that you create, and you want story around like why you're doing what you're doing. And that's really what makes people connect. And that's really why breaking down the barriers about like, what does a company want? They want all those same things. They want to engage people. They want to tell stories about what they do. They want to break down the walls. They want to develop partnerships and show impact. People do the same, individuals want the same thing, nonprofits want the same thing, cities want the same thing. So it's crazy that we all do this in our own little silos and that we don't have that kind of collaboration. So, the thing that I want to get to here is that like what's happening at DDP is a really good example of that. And it's a really cool micro example, but I think the vision for everybody who's here is that this is something that we want to be able to replicate and prove that it works, and we want to be able to go connect with other people that are doing similar kinds of things. So, when we started this whole process, this is the first time that I had started a business, and I was so convinced that it was like the most obvious thing in the world that, like, yeah, this is dumb. This has to be fixed. Like, this is silly that nobody's tried to fix this before. And when we started going out and talking to people about it, it was like not that easy. Like, people were like, dude, you're crazy. Like, I don't even see that as a problem. Like, I don't believe that. Like, whatever you're doing, you're not doing it right. And it gets to be kind of a frustrating place, right? And this is a little bit more of a personalist like kind of story and experience. But when you guys asked us to speak, you sent us some videos on other people and what they've spoke about. And I watched a couple of them, so thank you. And one of the ladies that spoke was Alexis Jones, and she talked about that she nailed it, right? And she nailed it because she just talked like, it's hard, and like doing something that is new and doing something that is different is like inherently just like demoralizing most of the time. And you, as a leader, like, you're supposed to stand up there and rally your team and be like, dude, everything's good. Like, we're gonna make it. It's gonna be awesome. And in reality, like, the people that love you and know you and they're like close to you in your life are like, dude, are you okay? Like, I don't know if you're gonna make it. Like, are you still like psyched about this? And so I think like what I wanna like leave you guys with is that like what's happening here and picking up your life and moving it and being involved in this amazing community to a lot of people is totally insane. And what you're trying to do here to a lot of people is totally insane. Like, trying to build a city without any planners or like without any structure, they're like, that's crazy. That's not possible. But we, and me in particular, have like a very selective short-term memory, and that we all do what we do for a reason, and we're passionate about it, and we believe in it. And no matter how many times people tell you that it's not a good idea or it's not going to work or you should do something else or do it differently, all it takes is that one conversation that like you sit down with someone and you say, hey man, this is what I'm doing, and they're like, dude, that's so cool, and they just start running with it, and you see it in their head, you see the wheels go, and you see like the energy that comes out of it, and you get those kind of goosebumps that you got when you first came up with the idea or whatever, and it kind of makes everything worth it, right? And it kind of gives you that energy to keep going and to get through it. So what you guys are doing here is that to me, and I think like whether it's awesome every day or it's not awesome every day, I don't really know. I imagine that it's similar to what we go through and what anybody goes through when they're starting something new. But know that like you inspire people that you don't even know, and that you really can't even imagine every day, because you're building something here that's totally new and totally different, and people look to you for like respect and inspiration. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and that's all I got. But I appreciate being here, and it's awesome to be part of this community, so thanks.